Hi, myself Purnima, Assistant Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. I welcome you back for the 8th session on the classes and objects of the subject Application Development using Python. Let's quickly check the last topics in this module, that is the 4th module. So, we are going to check in today's session class diagrams, some of the debuggings, and then as a last topic we will study on the data encapsulation. So first we will see a class diagram. Okay, in the previous sessions and all, we have studied one of the diagram that was on the object diagram. So the object diagram, it shows the relationship between the attributes, okay, and or I can say that it shows you what all attributes are there in an object and their values. Now in the inheritance we are going to check a special type of a class diagram, which is a more abstract representation of the structure of a program. Okay, so instead of showing the individual objects, so this class diagram shows the relationship between the classes. Object diagram shows the attributes and their corresponding values of that object, but the class diagram shows the relationship between the classes here now. Okay, so based on these relationship, there are two kinds we can have. One is called as a hazard relationship. In this case, so the objects in one class might contain references to objects in another class. So this type of relationship we call it as a hazard relationship. Clear? Objects is in one class and this object is being referred in the another class. Okay, so that we call it as a hazard relationship. And the one class might inherit from another, and this type of relationship we call it as a is-a relationship. Has-a relationship, object is being used in another class, and is-a relationship is that when the classes have got the inheritance relationship. So these are two types of relationships we can represent it using the class diagram. And there is one more thing, like when you have the relationship, there is a dependency also. Okay, that is one class might depend on another, in the sense that objects in one class take objects in the second class as a parameters. So or they can use the objects in the second class as a part of the computation. So in that case we say that there is a relationship of type dependent relationship. Generally we use a has a relationship and a is a relationship. Okay, so in the previous sessions we have defined three classes: card class, deck class and the hand class. Now the relationship, now the two relationships have been represented in using one class diagram. This is one sample class diagram we have. Okay, so this is one sample class diagram. It is a graphical representation of the relationship. Now if you see here, there is a hollow arrow mark is there, okay, between deck and hand. So this shows that there is a inheritance relationship, or has a relationship is there, is a relationship is there between the hand and deck. Okay, and if you see, there is just an arrow mark is there between deck and card. So in this case we have the is a relationship. Now this is called as, okay, so this is the is a relationship. Okay, and here we have the has a relationship. Don't get confused. So the hollow arrow mark shows it is a relationship, that is the inheritance. Okay, hand is inheriting deck and deck has the cards. And if you see here, star indicates that it can have one or more attributes. For example, deck can have, so we have seen there are how many, 52 cards it has. So deck, I can specify, either I can specify deck has one card object, or deck has two card object, 3 and so on, like 52. Deck can have the 52. I can specify these numbers here instead of star, or star says that it can have any number of cards. If you specify star, there can be any number of card objects. Okay, the deck has, or else if you specify 1, it says deck has one card object. If you specify 52, it shows that deck has got the 52 cards. So this is the understanding of the class diagram. Hope it is clear to you. Okay, so this is the relationship. Okay, so the hand is a type of a deck. Okay, so hand is inheriting deck, and deck has, okay, any number, deck can have any number of cards. So this is on the graphical representation. When you have this graphical representation, it is easy for you to understand the relationship between the classes. Okay, so this is on that. And if you have the dependencies, so you can specify the dependencies. Okay, otherwise if you have more dependencies, it is always a good practice to not to specify those dependencies. Dependencies usually they are represented using the dotted lines. For example, if there is one more class is there, okay, for example card 2, this is one example is there, and this card is dependent on card 2. In that case we use the dotted line in order to represent the dependency here. Okay, as I said earlier, if you have more dependencies you don't specify, but if you have the dependency, less dependency, you can show it with the dotted notations. Let's come back to the debugging. Okay, so for example, usually what happens when you have the inheritance, it becomes difficult in order to debug for the logical errors. Okay, so that is what is being given here. Inheritance can make debugging difficult because when you invoke a method on an object, it might be hard to figure out which method will be invoked because you are establishing the relationship. Okay, for example, in the hand and deck classes itself, we have seen if you have the init method in the hand, it overrides the init method of the deck. When you have such scenarios, so it becomes hard for a programmer to debug the programs. So okay, that is what is been given. Suppose you are writing a function that works with the hand objects and you would like it to work with all kinds of hands, for example like poker hands, bridge hands, and etc. Okay, and when you have such a scenario and if you invoke a method like shuffle, you might get the one defined in the deck, but in any of the subclasses overrides this method, you will get the version instead. Okay, if you don't override it, okay, whatever is being defined in the deck will be called other. Suppose if in the subclasses, if the shuffle method is being overridden, in that case we will get the overridden version instead of that. So in such cases, okay, we are unsure about the flow of execution through our program, but the simplest solution what we can do is we can add a print statements at the beginning of the relevant methods. For example, in the deck class, in the hand class, if you write it as a programmer, if you write it, when you get the unexpected output, it becomes easy for you to debug where there is a problem in the program. Okay, so for example, it is being written here. Okay, so shuffle is there, finding the defining objects. Okay, so that is how we write it. That is what is being written. Okay, now shuffle is there. Okay, so it means that this is inside the shuffle. Okay, so that is on debugging. It is always good to have the print statement. So as a last concept in case of the object oriented programming is the encapsulation, which is a very fundamental concept that we have in case of the object oriented programming. So the data encapsulation, nothing but it describes the idea of wrapping the data and the methods that work on data within one unit. Okay, so when you have this definition, it puts restrictions on accessing variables and methods directly and can prevent the accidental modification of the data. Correct, because when you have the global variables, as an example, if you take up, okay, so these global variables can be modified by anybody else which are in the program itself. So but when you have the data encapsulation, so it restricts the others to modify such data. Okay, so for example, if you see here, to prevent the accidental change, an object's variable can only be changed by an object's method. In that case, what do? Is we make the variables as the private variables. Okay, as the name itself indicates that the private variables can only be modified by the objects of that class where the variables have been defined. Okay, so for example, a class is one such example of encapsulation. It encapsulates all the data, that is member functions, variables, etc. So the data encapsulation, the best example itself is a class. Okay, because what it is doing, it is encapsulating all the variables and the functions within one single unit. That unit we call it as an object. Only that object has got a right to modify or call those functions, or it can modify the variables. Okay, so one such example is it is on the Markov analysis. For example, Markov analysis is nothing but it is to determine the probability of the next occurring the words. As an example, for example, the, and, or, okay, these are words are there. So these or and words, what is their probability that these might occur, these might appear in the sentences, in the next sentences. That is on the Markov analysis. So this Markov analysis, it uses two variables, suffix map and the prefix. Okay, so these variables, since they are global, we can only run one analysis at a time. Okay, so suffix and prefix. So in order to identify the words, we use the Markov analysis. Now if we read two texts, their prefixes and suffix would be added to the same data structures. Okay, because they are the two common global variables. Markov analysis you must have studied in your data structures, or else you can just go through the textbook that is being provided, okay, in the syllabus for this particular module, that is on the Think Python 2. There is a PDF available, okay, so that you can use it and try to understand the Markov analysis. In simple, I can say that this analysis gives you the list of words and their probability of occurring in the text. Okay, so in this case, to run the multiple analysis, what we do is we keep them separate and we can encapsulate the state of each analysis in an object. So here is what it looks like in the init. So what we have done, instead of keeping them outside, these have been written inside the class itself, suffix underscore map and the prefix. Okay, and then we can transform the functions into methods. For example, there is a word function called process underscore word. Okay, so this has been, where it has been written, again it has been written within the class Markov itself. So this only class can modify these the values. Okay, but if you see here, transforming a program like this, that is changing the design without changing the behavior, is another example of refactoring. Okay, so the example what we have taken, okay, it suggests a development plan for designing the objects and the methods. So what do? Is we follow some of the steps, like we start by writing the functions that read and write the global variables whenever it is necessary. We have to write the functions. And then once you get the program working, look for the associations between the global variables and the functions that make use of them. And then we have to encapsulate the related variables as attributes of an object. That is what has been done now. Okay, so we have defined one init method. Okay, in that case we are using these variables. Okay, the global variables, and we have identified a function which works with these global variables, and then transform the associated functions into methods of the new class. So these are the some of the steps we can follow it in order to have the data encapsulation. Okay, and data encapsulation, okay, when you have this, we can get a question like how class can be instantiated in Python. Okay, for example, we write a Python program to express instance as return values to define a class rectangle. Okay, and then the corner add member function to find area and perimeter of the rectangle. Okay, so whatever we have seen in the previous, it was on the data encapsulation. Okay, so this slide, it shows you some of the exam questions that you might get it in the examination. Okay, one such question is how class can be instantiated, and you might get a question on writing a Python program and explain the init and string method with an example Python program, polymorphism, pure functions, operator overloading. Okay, and we might get a question on the Python code to overload plus minus. So all these are some of the questions that I have added in the sessions, but you can refer the multiple choice questions section where we have provided some of the MCQs on this particular topic. Okay, hope all the sessions are clear to you. The 8 sessions are there on module 4. You can go through and you can solve the multiple choice questions. Thank you very much.